and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It is a beautiful, warm, bright winter's day. The sky is blue and the sun is out, and it promises to be a wonderful afternoon. This is Safari Live. Ready. Standing by.
You are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful sunset safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and it is a joyous occasion to be back and being out live and with all of you again. I hope that it's going to be a wonderful cycle going ahead. I had a fantastic leave, and it really is nice to be back home and back at Djuma and to go and see what's been out and about. It seems the girls have really had a fantastic few days and lots of nice sightings and have looked after you all very nicely. So it's very, very good to be back, and it is interactive, it is live, which means you can use hashtag Safari Live on Twitter if you want to get hold of us or if you would like to ask any questions. Now this afternoon it is very warm and it is very bright, and so I think Craig and I are going to try and see if we can't find ourselves some big pachyderms down by some water holes. So we're going to go check all the water holes to the south, and maybe we'll get lucky with little Hosanna as well. And I believe Taylor has already struck it lucky this afternoon, so that bodes well for the afternoon, and hopefully it's going to be a busy, wonderful day out here. So far has been. It's very warm for this time of the year. It is quite windy and breezy, but it's sort of not taking away at all from the warmth that is coming down. It's about 30 degrees or 29 degrees, I think, 84, I think Megan said, Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. So it is quite warm, and definitely warm for this time of the year. It should be a little bit cooler than that. We normally have temperatures that are slightly lower. But I am very excited to be back. It seems like I say, that the lions are back on the property. It seems Hassan has been around. I know Tundi had a kill, and it's always good to get back to where you've sort of been away for a few days and come and see all your favorite animals again and see what they've been up to and where they've been and what they've been doing. And I had a very, very good leave, so it'll be good if the animals had a good time while I was away too. It was a fun leave, that's for sure. Had plenty of good times, and it was a definite boys' leave since Ellie was here working, and I spent a lot of time with a lot of my guy friends, and lots of shenanigans went on for the week, which was highly entertaining and, well, quite fun. We also did lots of serious things as well, and we'll get into that a little bit later. It promises to be a couple good stories. Now, I thought I saw... let me just go back here. There was a beautiful bird that just flew out, but I'm trying to see if I can see it again. Looked like one of the bush shrikes that flew off one of the trees next to us and up into this big tree, but I can't see at this stage any sign of it. The problem with the bush shrikes is they're so well camouflaged. Once they get inside one of those big trees like that, you're really going to battle to see them. They've got those sort of greyish wings and then the bright sort of yellow front, and that just blends in very, very well. Sorry, not greyish, greenish wings is what I was trying to say. And I'll try to find them in my book, because I'll show you what I mean by their coloration and their camouflage. Shrikes, where are you? You can tell I've been on leave for a few days because I've forgotten where the shrikes are in the book, which I shall find shortly. There we go. All right. So this is the shrikes that we're talking about. You can see they're very brightly colored birds, but they've all got these slight sort of greenish tinged backs with these yellow front areas. And when they land into a tree and they turn their back on you, this is the perfect coloration to blend in to the tree itself. Now, it could have been this grey-headed bush shrike that we've seen, or the orange-breasted bush shrike, which is the one on top. These are both quite common in this area, so it could have been either one of those two, but I definitely saw a bit of green and yellow as it flew off into the tree itself. But unfortunately, no sign of it at this stage. Now we're going to head off to the waterhole while it's still so warm and see if there's any signs of our elephants. But Miss Taylor McCurdy would like to say hello, and like I said, she's been very lucky already this afternoon. So let's go across to her and see what she's got to say for herself.
Well, Tristan, I can't take all the credit because you said you saw a lion laying in the bush upon your arrival back towards the Sabi sand, but I suppose I better introduce myself before these cats do disappear into the thicket. My name is Taylor, and of course on camera with me today is Sebastian. Now remember, this is indeed a live and interactive safari, so if you have any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. But it seems as though the cubs are starting to move now. I suppose we could call them sub-adults. They're old enough. Just walking around. So there's only 3 adult lionesses here. I wonder where the 2 others are. It's not uncommon that we do see them splitting up like this. Breakaway sort of prides. Well, I don't think you can really call them a breakaway pride. Maybe they're just taking a break from each other, but they end up always coming back to each other. Or they could have just got up and moved into the thicket already, and we may have missed them. Oh, it does look like there might be one more adult. No, it's not. It's a youngster. They're just getting such big heads now. Off you go, Fluffy. Now they're just moving into the shady spots like we have been discussing. It's particularly warm, especially for our winters. It's not that we're not used to having the hot days, but today is an exceptional day, so I'm not surprised that we're actually just seeing the lions just up like this. And I think that they will go flat and lay underneath some trees. Hopefully I'm wrong though. I wouldn't mind being wrong. Here comes the next one. Here comes my favorite little girl. She's got the very, very dark eyes, just like Amber Eyes has. And she's growing up. She's actually grown quite a bit since I last saw her. I just got a quick glimpse. As she stood up, she looked towards me, and that's how I was able to identify her. So she's one of the youngest lions in the pride. Well, she is the youngest lion in the pride. She was the only one that survived from the teddy bear litter, if I'm not mistaken. The other 2, unfortunately, succumbed to the white muscle disease, which was terrible. Really, really terrible. The lionesses' heads are still up every now and then, and they're grooming themselves, so maybe they move around. Now, Ellie, who is only 6 years old and all the way from the UK, you're wondering if the lions purr like your cat does. Well, not like your cat does. There is one cat that makes a interesting purring sound, and that's the cheetah. It almost sounds like a motorbike. It is such a real rumble. Not so the cats here, especially the lions, can't purr like that, but they make other different types of sounds. So they can roar, which is quite cool. That's something that we always like to hear, and that's what they were doing the whole of last night and this morning. Doesn't look like there's Birmingham boys here, but they were here. They were with the pride at one point, and sounded like at about, it was about 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock. It sounded like the entire Nkuhuma Pride and some Birmingham boys were calling. Now there's one more. We're just waiting for one more. It's going to get up. It's not going to sit here on its own. So as soon as it stands up, we will watch it walk away. Come on, up you get. It's looking back at the adults and the other siblings. Yeah, the shade that they were sitting in is not doing the job of keeping them cool on a day like today, as the sun is getting higher in the sky. It's just creeping over the tops of the trees, but there you can see the little one. I think there might be 2. Oh no, you're down there. I couldn't work out where Sebastian was pointing the camera for a moment. I was like, oh, I thought we only had one, and that lion is looking towards me, and that one's got its head back. Here we go. Here comes the last one, as I was telling you. Now, I've been trying to figure out how we can get in there. We might be able to take the same route that the lions are walking on, because I did go all the way around, but there was no gap, absolutely no gap to squeeze in. But we'll go around, we'll see what they get up to. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here for hours and hours and be patient with the lions, because I know what lions can be like. They'll just sleep for the entire 3 hours, and I'd rather go and find some other animals that are perhaps be more active. Maybe we find a herd of elephants somewhere. That would be quite nice to watch them if we get them splashing about in the water, or buffalo wallowing around. But definitely not going to be watching lions sleep today, and especially because they're in such a thick spot that we probably aren't even going to be able to make them out. But let's see if we can get another view. Also, this drainage line that they're heading into is treacherous. I don't think we'll make it. Where are you going now? Cats, please don't take me on a wild goose chase this afternoon. That's exactly what they're doing. I can't even see them anymore, can you? Are they still moving? Okay. Let's go. We'll go the other way around then. I'm just going to reverse back. It'll take me 2 seconds. Ooh. And I just pulled my earpiece out. Hang on. Knobthorn got it. So luckily for us, there's another track. Whee! Oh, bump. Sorry. Just got to catch up quickly here. Now this is the problem, is due to the fantastic camouflage that a lion has in this long golden grass, and it gets quite tall going, and then they're going to completely disappear. So now we just need to catch up. Luckily there's an old road. I think we had a couple of sightings in here before over the last 6 months. So there's a worn track that should take us out to the open, to the next gap quite quickly, where those lions were walking, because they've actually jumped quite far ahead of us. Kitty cats, please, not today. I think if we go, I think I saw one lioness look like, there's one, and there was another one that was walking up ahead. So I just want to make sure if you got her. Yeah. See, Sebastian's sitting nice and high. Oh yes, that's the one I saw. So here's, I wonder, you know what, I think they're just going to follow her. We might as well stick up with the leader of the pack, eh? Here's some cubs, we can quickly have a look at them. That's a good shady spot. Again, it is tough. It's going to be tough to do. Or even that lot might actually be better, the one sitting on the left, because you can actually see their heads over the tops of the grass. These guys are laying flat. Like we always say, we've given them our own collective noun, a carpet of lions. Typically it's a pride of lions. But nice to see the Nkuhumas. I know that they're not looking in the, even though they're thin, it doesn't mean that they're not in good condition. So don't let that worry you. These animals are resilient, and the hunger will drive them. And maybe that's what's happening right now. There's a bit of a breeze that's starting to pick up. So it is starting, right now it's just starting to cool everything down. So they could go out on a hunt. Who knows? Where's this lioness gone now? Can't see her. Now, David, you're wondering if the boy cubs will bully the lionesses as they get older. No, not too badly. So it's not quite like what happens with elephants, because we see that often. The young males, as they start getting quite excited with life, they then turn their frustrations to the females and the younger members of the pride. That doesn't typically happen here. Those lionesses will stand together and give those young boys a hiding. If it needs to be like that. So they don't really tolerate anything like that. I mean, even the lionesses don't tolerate the dominant males sometimes. We've seen many altercations between lionesses. There we go, sitting up. See, they keep looking for this other lioness who's just up in front. I can't see her anymore, but at least we're sort of halfway between the two. But it is going to be tricky if they go down in here. I don't know how we're going to navigate around. So actually what I'm going to do is, while you watch them walk, I'm going to open my phone and put the GPS on, just so I can try and figure out exactly where they're going to go and where they're going to pop out, what's going to be the best route, without us having to go through ridiculous terrain and break a car. It's very easy. Obviously these types of things happen often when you go out on safari. There's absolutely nothing you can do, and you've seen the vegetation we have to go through if you want to follow these animals. And this long grass really doesn't help, and that's exactly what happened to Ellie last night. That's often why I stand up. You've seen me driving and standing, and you probably think, my goodness, Taylor, what are you doing now? And it's just to try and spot those stumps. They don't look like they really want to go anywhere, and it's probably because they're feeling lethargic, they're tired, they don't have any extra energy. They're now cutting into those valuable fat and muscle reserves that, you know, they don't want to. It's just because they haven't had a meal. So they keep sitting down every point. Now the cubs are starting to follow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all 6 are here. It's just triple checking. So it must be Amber Eyes and the youngest Nkuhuma lioness that are off. Driving up to leopards, you're wondering if it's your imagination or do those lions look underweight? It's normal. This is so typical of the big cats. Remember, they're opportunistic feeders, so they're not the greatest hunters. They're not so successful as wild dogs are. They've tried to make a couple of attempts, but haven't managed to grab anything. So yes, they are looking thin. They do need to eat. And hopefully today will be the day. And as long as they're standing up and moving around, we'll try and stick with them. The adults are going again. Which means, I don't know what the cubs are doing, because if adults are going to go on a hunt, these little ones might be, they're not really joining in though just yet. They still just would be observing for the sidelines. Oh, here comes another adult. So now we've got 4 lionesses. Can you see her? So maybe the 5th lioness is still here. Here she comes. Hello, girl. Who have we got here? This looks like the youngest. Is it? No, I can't tell the difference. I just know amber eyes, but she's got a really... Yeah, I think it is. This is not amber eyes. No. She's got lovely golden eyes. I'm just looking at her nose. It's quite pink, but there is one lioness in the Pride that has got a speckled pink nose. Okay, well then I'm going to say that probably all 5 lionesses are here, if this is the case. It's very rarely, unless one of them is off mating with a male, with one of the Birmingham boys, which I know there was a mating pair in Buffelshoek over the last 2 days. And it was an Nkuhuma lioness. Rexon didn't specify which lioness it was. So maybe there's just 4. It's hard to tell. We'll just have to wait and see, seeing as though we keep getting surprises coming out of the long grass. But nonetheless, I can tell you this is great to have a lion moving during the heat of the day. But she's obviously realized that the adults, or the other lionesses, have got up and on the move. You don't look very impressed today. She keeps pulling faces. Oh, she's got an injury on the inside of her leg. Look at that. Looks like a bite mark. Oh, she's got some, and on her rump, she's got some serious injury. She's not limping, but I think when they were fresh, that would have been very sore. We'll see if we can get a view. I wonder if she just hasn't been fighting, because there's a scratch on the back. Yeah, I haven't had a good view of them. But I think I remember the last time I saw the Nkuhumas, one was slightly limping. Maybe it was her. It was also completely dark. But it's healed up now. And I can imagine when those wounds were fresh, that would have been a little bit on the painful side. But she looks good. Wow. This is going to be exciting trying to maneuver through here. So while I do this and catch up with the lionesses of the Nkuhuma Pride, let's go across to Tristan. He's arrived at Treehouse Dam.
Well, I have indeed, Taylor, and we had some Impala's alarm calling, so I'm just checking all the shady areas at this stage in case Hosana or little Shongile is lying here. Now you can see our Impalas are just on the other side, and they were staring down into this direction and were sort of snorting. They weren't doing it very, very heavily, and they weren't doing it as though they were in imminent danger, but it was definitely not just alarm calling or rutting like the males do. They were staring and shouting towards this area. So I'm just checking all the shady sections. It could be that they might have spotted something in the shade that they weren't sure about, and one was just letting out a few snorts here and there, trying to alert the others. You can see they are all males, so rutting is something that we would have to take into consideration, because we know that it's right at the end of the rut now, and they make this lot of noise when they rut, and they'll snort and they'll sort of gargle and grunt. But this sound that they were making wasn't followed by any of those gargles or grunts, and you can actually see, look how alert they are. They keep facing towards this area, and I don't know if it's the Egyptian geese maybe that are unsettling them, because there's some Egyptian geese on the water itself, but that shouldn't really worry them too much. Egyptian geese are pretty much part and parcel of everyday life out here. We find them at most of the waterholes, and so the Impala shouldn't be too perturbed by that. So I don't know. I wonder if maybe there hasn't been a leopard around here somewhere, and the scent of them is kind of hanging around in this area, and that could potentially be why the Impalas are a little bit nervous. But we shall definitely look and see if we can't find any footprints. I know Hosana loves to lie in these shady sort of quarry areas here, and this would be the perfect place for him to spend time. And Shongile also has spent quite a bit of time at Treehouse Dam, so it's worth checking for sure. Craig, do you see anything? No, me neither. I don't know why these impalas were alarm calling. And it was more than just the one. It wasn't just one impala that was alarm calling. There was multiple ones. You can actually hear they're still calling now. I wonder where they're calling to. Might just be watching. Like I said, there is quite a bit of a wind that's blowing from my south to my north, so it's very possible that there is just some sort of a smell that's lingering in the air, that a leopard maybe came down to drink during the day, or even those lions. Not that I've seen any tracks for the lions here. They could have also been around, and that's what's causing these impalas to be a bit nervous. There's also a beautiful eagle that's just soaring here. You see it there, Craig? It's going to come straight over us, which is quite nice, and it's being held up slightly in the wind, which is very cool. As this Bateleur eagle is flying, it's just being held slightly by the wind. So when it turns to the north, it's very difficult for Craig, but as soon as it turns to the south, it's actually quite nice because the wind's just sort of stopping it. There we go. You can hear them again. There's the impalas calling. Impalas, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And our Bateleur eagle is also here. Now, the Bateleur eagle is an eagle that you've often got to watch. If you see that eagle starting to land somewhere, there often is a sign that there could be a carcass there. They're the ones that will land pretty much first at carcasses, them and tawny eagles, and then you'll find the vultures come in after that. And they feed off mostly fresh carrion. So always worth, when you hear alarm calls and you see Bateleur eagles around, just to check where they're actually going. But that Bateleur looks as though it's taken off rather than climbing, rather than actually coming down. But well done, Craig. That's very good. And the Impala is now just staring straight at us as its alarm calls. You can hear that in the background, and that's the Impala male, and he's just kind of staring directly at us and sort of looking in our direction. Now I'm trying to scan all around me here, but I don't see any sign of a leopard or any sort of predator whatsoever. Maybe I'm just blind, and we know that at this time of the year with this color grass, it's very, very difficult to see some of these predators. So I'm going to just try and do a loop round. Right, I'm going to do a little sort of check around here and check what's going on and what's unsettling these impalas. And while I do that, let's go back to Taylor, who sounds like her lions are up and about, which is quite surprising in this warm weather.
We are surrounded by the big cats of Africa at the moment. You can see. How great is that? To be sitting almost eye to eye with a lioness. It's pretty amazing. Now, we'll often have leopards walking around the cars, and the lions are actually the ones that are even easier to habituate around the vehicles. She would not be standing right there if she didn't want to walk in this place. And they've got plenty of places to sort of go around. I'm just going to shuffle, chasing the shade. The youngsters are actually coming now too. Let's see what their reaction is with the cars. Oh, it's so beautiful. Here they all come. They're all going to funnel in a line. They're going the other way around. They're going around the back. But they're definitely hungry. You can see some of the little ones are looking thinner than the others, and it's important that these youngsters continuously get meals so that they can grow into the biggest and the strongest lions that they can be. It's the same thing with Hosana and Shongile, is that they need to constantly keep... Look at this, Seb. Here's your cat here. You could just about reach over and scratch it. One just walk right past the car within touching distance. But I'm going to keep my hands in the vehicle. Now, Mary, you said it is so close, so cool. It is. It's pretty exhilarating. You know, I definitely get butterflies in my tummy when a leopard walks past, or when a lion does it and I haven't got a door on the side of the car. It gives me the heebie-jeebies more than anything. But I know that as long as I keep my hands and my feet in the vehicle and I don't shuffle around too much and draw attention and break the silhouette of the car, I'm fine. They're not worried about me. They don't want to eat me. Even when I'm out of the vehicle and you spot lions on foot, most of the time they just run away from us. So they're actually quite scared. But in the cars, we have this different relationship with them. We're sort of neutral. They don't mind us. We follow them around. They walk around us. It's quite a great relationship that we sort of have. It's like being a rock, except not the kind of rock that a rhino or a buffalo or a hippopotamus or even an elephant would rub up against. I'm glad that they don't rub up against us after they've had a mud bath. But they're moving into these drainage systems now. They're wanting to catch something. They're hungry. The one lioness, she doesn't stop for too long. She's up and down the whole time. And it's a good tactic, especially if they just want to get something small to catch something. With Kudu, Inyala, Impala, all these types of animals will also be feeding down along the drainage line. So as soon, I think, as they hear some shuffling in the leaves, they'll make a move, even during the day. So we're getting to the point now where we might have a situation where we break that whole stigma that is attached to lions, where people say that big cats do not hunt during the day. Now that's an old wives' tale. Hi cats, which way are you going to go? We've got more cubs. We've got one going in front, one going behind now. Just be careful, Seb, they're right behind. One's right behind you. This one is okay though. You guys don't even care, hey, with the cars. I feel as though the youngsters don't mind us. This one's a little bit wary. What's wrong? You can go in front. There's plenty of space. Looks like you're one of the young males now that's walking behind us. Oh boy. They're growing up so quickly. Now, a question from Charlie, and that is, would these lions start hunting smaller prey if they had to? Yes, I think that's what's going on over here. I think they've got to that point where they're so desperate now, even if they catch a deka, which would not even be a mouthful for each of these lions, but if they could catch a kudu, ideally that would be much better. And I think that's what they're hoping to stumble across. An adult, a female kudu would be great. That would supply them with full bellies that they'd probably finish it in the late hours of the evening. A kudu bull would probably last until tomorrow morning, because I wouldn't be surprised with all the commotion that would go on if the Birmingham boys would come streaming in, because it seems as though they meet up with the Nkuhuma Pride every single night. They might not spend too much time with them all the time, but they definitely pop past them just to make sure that everything is okay, everything's going to according to plan. You know, there's no new males trying to push in here. It's good that they continuously pop in and just check that everything's alright, and then they go elsewhere, and then they go and rest somewhere. Sorry, I'm just shuffling around in my seat. I'm fighting off flies this afternoon, and this is where I wish I had the tail like a lion has, to be able to swat them, because my hands are absolutely hopeless. It's very quiet out here. A couple of turtle doves are chirping in the distance. But I think they've picked a good time to start moving. Like I said, the wind is just starting to pick up, and we know that wind is great, especially when you've got very hungry lions that want to hunt. This is where they also get sloppy though, when it comes to the cat's hunting technique. When they are tired like this. Is another cub just walking past the vehicle, and we're just waiting for one more now. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we're waiting for 2 more. Now, Jackie, wondering, how do you tell so easily if they've eaten or not? Sorry. Excuse me, I always seem to sneeze around the cats the last couple of days. So Jackie, the easiest way is just to look at their bellies, because you can see they're quite thin now. So even if they did catch something like an impala, again, it wouldn't be a meal for the entire pride, you would see that their bellies would bulge slightly. It's very easy. You just got to look at the stomach, and if you're still unsure, you can look around their mouths, you can check around their necks, on their legs, to see if there's any blood. That's also another sign. That's my favorite little girl. She's beautiful, don't you think? Still looking for attention, but nobody wants to give it to her today. She got slightly swatted by that other lioness. Oh, no, you're not. Look at this. You know what? Those teddy bear cubs are the most, well, there's only one left. They were the most persistent 3 lion cubs I've ever come across in my entire life. Do you remember all those wonderful sightings we had where the mothers were trying to wean them, and they just weren't taking no for an answer? And she's gone in now, and I wonder if she'll try and suckle just for comfort. She looks like she's grooming, but I mean, we know that that's very, very close to that lioness's mammary glands, that area that she is looking in. Yes, you see, there she is too. She's trying to suckle, but there's nothing. Mom's not producing anything at all. She's obviously just that hungry They were weaned ages ago. They typically wean for about 6-7 months, maybe give or take, depending if there's younger cubs in the pride too, because then you get the older ones trying to suckle from one of the other lionesses. That happens quite often. They're not prone, then it's not uncommon, sorry, what am I talking about? It's not uncommon to see allo suckling take place. But she's not really having any. She wants to sit up and actually catch some food. So by licking it and kneading at it, that youngster's trying to stimulate milk, but mom hasn't been producing milk for a very, very long time. And now, this is going to be the fun part, because where the lionesses are crossing now, that's a really good spot. That's going to be our spot to cross too, because I need to try and figure out where they're going to come up from there. They're going towards Gallagher's shortcut, but it's still quite a way to go. But maybe they have a definite route, and they'll help us and lead us towards the road. Closest water from here is Gallagher Pan or Vuyatela. They could go either way. Jeff, are you wondering, due to the lack of food, would this cause the pride to split once the cubs get older? Maybe, but it's not necessary. Remember, this time of the year is when the buffalo come back. This is when we see the big herds of buffalo. But because we had all that late rain, it's obviously changed the seasons up slightly, because the grass is a lot longer than what it should be, than what it normally is. So as soon as the buffalo come back, they'll be fine. I don't think that they're going to split. Not yet. We see Amber Eyes and the youngest lioness going off from time to time, but they always come back. So no, I don't think so just yet. But it can happen. It most certainly can. If you hear squeaking, it's me. It's just exceptionally warm, and myself and Sebastian also need to stay hydrated. So I'm also going to sip water. Yes, here comes the wind. I'm sure they'll be appreciating that too. That must be nice and cool on their fur. But they can pant. They can keep themselves cool by doing that. And once these little ones go through, we are also going to have to do exactly the same thing. Keep following them. This is where we followed Mvula the one day. What a nightmare. It is a very thick block. It's one of my least favorite blocks to drive in. Actually, I reckon you could ask Tristan and Byron and Ellie and Jamie and Brent and James and everybody else that works here, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing. This is the worst place to drive, but we'll give it a bash anyway. We're going to send you across to Tristan now. He's got something that the Warthogs would find very tasty.
Well, indeed they would, and especially if they're hungry, there is nothing better than a little warthog for a lion pride. Unfortunately, it wouldn't go very far, though, with all those hungry mouths. The 5 lionesses and those 6 cubs would devour one of these warthogs fairly quickly, particularly if it was one of the smaller ones, like those piglets that you see in the middle. Now, the mom is watching us very carefully, and she's just making sure that we're not too close, not harboring any sort of ill will towards these little ones, and the rest are starting to move off slowly, and I think they're pretty much moving up towards Treehouse Dam. So I did a big loop just to come around to see if there was any tracks of anything and to why these impalas might be alarm calling. As we were kind of leaving, it's the alarm call that they're making is often when they smell something rather than actually see something. And so we did go down the road and found some male lion tracks that had moved in that direction, and I heard that there was a male lion calling from around the dam this morning, so I think it could be the same individual, although the picture that I did see of that male lion calling this morning was walking from east to west, so I don't know if it is the same one, because this one was coming north from Little Gari side and then coming up towards, they've all scattered. I was hoping our warthogs were going to stay still because they were actually right next to the road, but as you can see, they're all trotting away, and look at how they lift their tails as they go so that they can all follow one another, and then long manes just to help blend into the grass. And you can see, especially when the light is behind them, how well those long light-coloured manes actually work for camouflage. When you're a warthog down in the grass, when that mane just comes up, it becomes very difficult to make out those warthogs in the grass, and so the camouflage actually works very, very well indeed. But they, being typical warthogs, are not really spending too much time close to us. They often get up and move like this and kind of run away from us, they're often very nervous around cars, and that's probably because many a car has followed many predators towards these warthogs, and they know that cars can sometimes bring about danger, so they just trot off a little bit just to be able to increase the distance so that they know what's going on. If there is a predator, there's enough then space for them to get away and to evade that predator, so that's why they tend to trot away from the vehicles a little bit. Other than that, we're also quite a big object that's quite loud, and so you don't want to get too close to big large objects out here in the bush. You can see the little ears poking up through the golden grass. It's amazing how much drier it appears, even in the sort of short time that I've been away. It appears as though the grass has really taken on that white gold color that you get in the winter, in the depths of winter. And so a few cold patches that we've had, as well as this hot, dry weather, it would have caused this grass to die and sort of drain of any moisture much quicker. And it looks as though it's almost like you would see it in August, even though we're in the beginning of July. I can tell you one thing though, we're far better off here than some other parts of the Kruger Park system. I spent a lot of time in the Kruger Park this whole leave, up further north of us, and they're struggling. It's really, the grass has almost disappeared. It looks much like it did here last year, where it's barren and dry, and so they're going to have a tough time. It was also very interesting is I travelled quite a bit, and we travelled way to the southern boundary of Kruger, up through the middle sections, and then back this side, and trying to keep a sort of keen eye out on buffalo, given that we've had very few buffalo here, and we know that the Nkuhuma Pride, that's what they would be targeting most, and there really hasn't been too many around this area. So I was quite keen to see, well, where are all the buffalo hanging about? And I can tell you that there were very, very few buffalo in that entire trip. There are only two big herds that I saw, which were probably about 150 in each herd. They were all right down on the southern boundary on the Crocodile River, near a place called Bergendal, which is on the southern point of the Kruger, and very, very far from here. There was one other herd that I saw on the Sabi River, but they weren't very big at all, and other than that, there was very little. And it sort of started to think as to why there's so few buffalo. We know last year there was obviously this bad drought, and a lot of buffalo died, and that's an indication of what can go on, but there wasn't that many buffalo that died to cause such a drastic decline in the numbers. But what I think it is that Kruger has just gone under a whole process where they've closed water holes. So basically what they've done is they made man-made water holes many years ago, and they blew up all the dam walls and broke them down for ecological reasons. They worked out that when they had added all of that water, it caused a lot of damage to those surrounding areas by attracting animals that would have not necessarily have been there. Now, a lot of those water holes sit all along the sort of central and the western parts of Kruger, which is up against the Sabi Sands, and that means that there's not nearly as much water for something like a buffalo, which is highly water dependent, to get to, and that means that the buffalo probably are pushing more towards river systems where there's a constant source of water at the moment, and that would then take them away from us a little bit, unfortunately. And so it's going to be really interesting to see this winter if we do actually get any herds, or if this is now going to become the norm where we're going to get small groupings of males every now and then, but otherwise it's going to be quite quiet on the buffalo front. It certainly won't be good for a lot of our predators. You know, the lions in the Sabi Sands rely heavily on buffalo, and so it's going to be an interesting show of events. We obviously know that also that the Sabi Sands does have two rivers that flow through it, so the Sabi River right on the southern boundary and the sand that cuts the Sabi Sands in half, but those two rivers are far from where we are, and the chances of big herds of buffalo making it to where we are is going to be interesting to see if they actually do. It's something that I'll definitely keep a keen eye out. Now I see there's some kudu here now as well that are also looking very alert. So I wonder if this male lion didn't walk through here and just cause a bit of a scent to be left, and that's why everybody's so aware of what's going on. But you can see, look at how that kudu's standing up tall, ears out, listening and trying to smell what's going on as well. It's obviously decided there's nothing too much to worry about because it's now going down towards the dam. Had it picked up anything from up there, it wouldn't go down into an area where it's going to have limited view. As they drop down below this dam wall, they're no longer going to be able to see anywhere to their east, and so that would be quite dangerous if they thought there was a predator there. So the fact that they've come down towards the waters probably suggests that they're happy that there's nothing right here. I'm just going to quickly try and get round, Craig, so that you can see them drinking. Now, kudu are quite a shy animal, so they'll probably in all likelihood stop drinking while I come round, but as soon as we turn off they should then start to drink again. Here we go. So they don't really like too much noise, particularly when they're drinking. Much like most animals are quite aware and quite nervous when they drink. They know that predators will often use that to their advantage because their head is down, they're not concentrating. Also, when they're drinking, there's that sound of water being slurped up, which blocks out the movement of a predator, and so you'll find most animals when they're down like this are a lot more nervous. Look, you can see how it keeps popping its head up, just trying to listen. So, Karen, you say the way that they move reminds you of a moose. Well, Karen, I've never seen a moose in real life, and well, I'm just trying to think now from what I've seen on TV how they work and how they move, and so I'll have to take your sort of word for it that they do walk in a similar fashion. I'd imagine a moose is a much larger animal than what we see with the kudu. I believe moose are very, very big, and so our kudu aren't quite as large, but they do have this very interesting gait where they kind of rock their head slightly, and very big, powerful muscles around the shoulders that they will use if they need to jump. So they do have an interesting gait, a little bit different to a lot of the other antelope. The fine Nyala and kudu are quite similar, the way that they walk. Big long necks, and like I say, then they have that sort of head motion as they move, and they're very delicate with their feet. As they walk, they'll kind of, the back leg will go exactly where the front leg is, and we call it a direct register. And the reason why kudu and Nyala do that a lot is because they spend a lot of time in thick, dense areas, and when you do that, it means there's a lot of foliage that lies on the floor, and so if you walk clumsily, you're going to make a lot of noise and attract a lot of attention to yourself, and so you need to sort of walk slowly and make sure that your back feet go where your front feet do, and keep nice and quiet. But you can see they're definitely not very relaxed, as you can see by our kudu bounding away. I'm not quite sure what's given it a fright, but something made it a little bit nervous. Maybe it's the fact that it lagged behind slightly. The impalas are still here and still feeding, so if there was a predator in this area, it's not here anymore. And like I said, the male lion tracks do come through here, but they're not very fresh. There's elephants that have walked on top of them, so I would imagine from last night is when they moved through here, but there might still be a scent lingering in the wind, and that's why everybody's a little bit on edge. It's a problem when you go on leave. It takes 2 or 3 days just to kind of get you to know where everything's been moving around and where kind of everything's been walking, because it's difficult to know exactly how fresh tracks are when you haven't been here over the last few days, or where things have moved around. So it takes a few days just to kind of ease back into it and get to know everything again. Right, well, we're going to head towards, I think, Twin Dams, because nothing at Treehouse, lots of fresh elephant tracks heading that direction, so I'm going to go try and see if there isn't any sign there. And while I do that, let's go back to Miss McCurdy, who is probably being dragged through horrible thickets in pursuit of those lions, and I'm probably going to imagine that she's going to have a tough time if they do cross that drainage line.
Yes. We've seen where they've crossed over Gallego shortcut. That's all I have to say to your link, Tristan, is yes. They are dragging us through. I don't know if we're going to be able to follow them through here, I'm afraid. I don't know where they've gone, but I've seen their fresh tracks just crossing and through here. Let's go around. Let's go on to Gallego shortcut. I think they're heading in that direction, but it's just impossible. I'm going to break this car if I go in there, and I'm not going to do that. That's too thick. So that spot where we were off-roading now, which is why Sebastian and I got left behind, is because it was so dense. We had to turn around, find another route. We've picked up all sorts of things. Now I've got ow! Knob thorn stuck to my car. Go away. Let's quickly go to the pan. Oh, so they came out of here and then crossed the road. I have an idea. I think I know where they're going, but they keep stopping in between, so it's going to be difficult to try and wait for them. If they were constantly on the move, it would be a different story. They'd actually cover the ground quite quickly, but the fact that they rest for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then get up and start walking again is going to prove tricky. So we'll quickly go around towards the pan. We have a squeak now too. I don't know what, something is squeaking. Can you hear that squeak?
Yeah.
Beep, beep. Sounds there, huh? I don't know. Well. So I believe a couple of you are actually asking what happened to Ellie. She's eaten. She got eaten by the lions. We left her there. No, I'm only teasing. Of course that never happened. Connor went to try and rescue her, and then it seemed as though that car actually needed to be fixed out in the field. So Opa, our mechanic, came through as well late last night, and I think they got back at about 8 o'clock or so. So it was a quick fix in the bush, being able to do all of that. Opa replaced or rebent certain things in the way that they needed to be bent and managed to drive the car. Now it's fine, which is quite cool. It's amazing what you can do out in the bush. So Ellie's fine. Everyone is okay. We didn't lose anybody to the big cats last night, and it seems as though they actually left Ellie. They just left her sitting there, so it's not like she even had a sighting to enjoy, which is a little bit sad. Okay, so we're going to come up to the pan. They could have changed direction and then headed more south. Actually, just want to update the radio again. Just let them know that they did cross and they're coming towards Gallagher shortcut. No. Yeah, all talking. Hi, Impala. Seen any lions? Well, obviously not, because if you'd seen them, you'd be alarm calling. It was a silly question on my behalf. Lions could be stalking them, but we're still quite a way off. They're much further down that side. And this drainage line that runs down in front of us, that's where they were coming from. Right, let's see if the radio's... People have stopped talking. Nope, still going on. So we will try and update them in the next 10 minutes or so when we eventually find them. Now I suppose we just keep driving around until we find them again. That's going to be what we're going to have to do now. No one at the pan yet. Go around this side. I'll go and check an old favourite spot where they think, where the route is that I think they're going to pop out on. I don't know if I'm going to be correct though. Yeah, I think they're going to move through this drainage line. It'll be easier than moving through that thicket. Or they're going to pop out on Mvuba Road. Rob from New Jersey said that you're going to call the show T Squared for Tristan and Taylor. I suppose you could call it T Squared. It's quite a nice name. Oh, I'm just trying to concentrate to try and find you these lions. It's a bit I try to say Sebastian's name in.
There's a leopard there.
Oh, a leopard.
Yeah.
Well spotted.
Yeah.
Who's that? Oh no, now we've got to go through this horrible drainage line. Okay, well we're not looking at lions. No, thank you. Don't be sorry. We're not looking at lions anymore. We're going to try and pick up on this leopard. Didn't look particularly big. Oh no, we're not going to be looking at this leopard. It's running away. Who's shy like that? Oh, small. Was it a leopard? It was a leopard. Looks...
Isn't that the one where these things are?
I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so I need to go through here very quickly. Great, I'm going to duck. So we did just see a leopard. It looked very female-like and looked very skittish, very nervous, running away from the car, so I don't think we're going to pursue it too much. We'll try and figure out who it is, but I need to do some off-road driving. I'm going to send you back across to Tristan while we try and find one of these cats.
Sure. Well, it sounds like Taylor is having a winning afternoon. So instead of it being T squared, it seems like it's T by herself this afternoon because, well, we've not had as much luck as Taylor has, that's for sure. I suppose we've had some nice things. We've had the Kudu and the Impalas, and, well, it's just very pleasant to be out on drive. But Taylor's definitely having all the luck this afternoon, and I hope that she does find whoever it is that ran or crowned or that she spotted, because it would be nice to know who this little leopard is that's lurking. And that leopard better be very careful, because if the Nkuhumas are around, it might have a tough time of it if it gets caught by those guys. Nkuhumas will definitely give chase, so maybe that's why it's a little bit nervous. I also figured out why our Impalas and Kudu are so nervous. The entire Nkuhuma Pride walked right past Treehouse Dam. I found their tracks going towards where the Impalas were standing and then cutting up northwards, so that's why they were a little bit on the shy side, and it's quite understandable when there's a smell for 11 lions walking around in that area. And that's obviously where the male must have joined with the female, because I believe that there was audio or sound of the females and the males calling together, so hopefully that's where that sort of males and females met. And I wonder if that male's still with us. I know he was seen on the dam camera, but I don't think he's actually with the females at the moment. But talking about things and animals, we've found some of our own. Now, they're just generally drifting into the bush, and I don't know if we're going to have visual of them for too long, but it's a little troop of Vervet monkeys that are walking across the road, and I actually just saw their tracks very briefly, and I was thinking that the tracks look quite fresh, and, well, there they are, just disappearing into the riverbed. And at this time of the day, you'll find, because it's been really hot and warm, the monkeys have been out and they've been looking for food, so they'll have been looking for all kinds of different food items and berries and things like that. And now that it's starting to get a little bit later in the day and it's starting to cool off a little bit, they start to make their way towards these riverbed areas. And the reason why is because in riverbed sections, big tall trees exist, and it means that these guys can go up into there and they can stay nice and safe and away from all these lions and leopards that are lurking about in this area. It's amazing how quickly they disappear, though, although I can still see one there, Craig. And let's have a look. No, they just ran away. They were sitting in the shade, but they've just run. Seems to be our luck this afternoon. Things are disappearing on us. Oh wait, there we go. Try reverse a little bit, Craig. See if we can't keep it in sight for a little bit longer. No, you're going to disappear as well. The monkeys are giving us the runaround. They're making it quite difficult for Craig to keep them, because they keep sort of moving and running behind things, and then as we're leaving, they jump out of nowhere. I wonder if it's not gone to go for a drink. I just want to quickly check a little bit further forward. In fact, they have. That's exactly where they've gone. There we go. So they're all just having a little drink from the ever drying chiller pan. It's starting to get quite low. There we go. So Arbeard, hello Arbeard, how are you? I hope you are very well. We want to know whether the Vervet monkeys will use rocks as a tool. Well, I would imagine that they could. I've never seen them do it. It's not to say that it hasn't happened, and there might be documented evidence of them doing it. I know that monkeys are incredibly intelligent, and, well, if a rock helped them to be able to break open things, then it is very possible. I just personally have never seen it myself. Like I say, it's not to say that that isn't a possibility and isn't something that does take place. But aren't they very cool? You can see not very often we get to see them drinking like this, so this is quite a special sight. I actually can't remember the last time I watched monkeys drinking, and it's normally because they're so sort of shy and skittish. These monkeys obviously come from a lodge somewhere because they don't care at all about us and are happy to come and have a nice drink. Beautiful light on them as well, and see a few reflections as they walk past. Now, what is immediately noticeable about the Vervet monkeys in comparison to the baboons is not only are they much smaller, but look at the length of their tail and how the tail is carried in comparison. And it makes actually tracking these guys quite easy, because you see, look how the tail drags. So wherever you find their footprint, you'll find a dragging tail behind it, whereas the baboon's tail doesn't drag at all. And look at their agility. absolutely amazing the way that they're able to climb, and that's all because they've got that prehensile thumb that's able to grip, and much like our hands, they've got that on both their feet and their hands, and that allows them then to climb these trees with absolute ease. There's a few little babies playing around as well. I've got to say, this is probably one of the best vervet monkey sightings I've had in a very long time. Generally, we see them in the lodges and they're up to no good trying to steal food and trying to get into kitchens and things like that. But out in the bush, it's seldom that we actually get to spend any time with them. They're normally high up in the trees, and the only time we really take notice is when they are making a bit of noise in alert to a leopard or a lion, and that's normally kind of how we find them. But very seldom we get to see them like this. Well, Alicia, you say you've never seen monkeys on safari live before. And I'm glad that this is the first time, and it's probably one of the best monkey sightings I've had in a long, long time. So I'm glad that you've finally got to see them. They are such cute animals when they are playing around and not trying to get into your room or into your kitchens or things like that, because when they are like that, they are very naughty. But when they're out here, they are very cute, and you can see the little babies. They'll often have lots of games and they'll tumble around together and play fight, much like naughty children. They're exactly the same. There we go. Off we go. Don't get left behind. Look how cute it is. So, Alicia, you want to know what other types of monkeys live here? Well, unfortunately, we don't have any other monkeys as per se. We've got the baboons, which is part of the ape family, and then we've got bush babies, which is also a primate, but not a monkey at all. So this is the only monkey we get in this part of the world. There are other monkeys within South Africa, but here in the Kruger National Park, or more specifically Djuma and the Sabi Sands, it's just the vervet monkeys. And you can see that's a male. If you look under his tail, he's got bright blue testes, which is very easy to tell then the male from the females. It almost looks like they've been shot with a paintball gun between the legs, and it's now swollen up and taken on the color of the paint as well. But it's very easy to see the sort of big dominant males because their testes go that bright powdered blue color. It almost looks like two bird's eggs that are hanging between his legs. And so a nice way to be able to sex monkeys. Here comes a little one that looks like it might go up the tree. You know, it's going to come and have a drink. There we go. And see how it's actually going through. It looks like it's going through some of the dung there. And you'll find that these vervet monkeys do sometimes do this because they'll be able to find things. And it's actually eating the green grass. It's not going through dung. It's going through green grass that is growing in the mud. So that's nice, fresh, tasty grass that it's battling to find anywhere else. And so it's probably why it's busy eating it. What's wrong? Did you get a fright? So, Lauren from Illinois, you want to know if the monkeys eat meat or if they scavenge? No, well, these vervet monkeys, no, they're herbivorous. They will pretty much eat all things vegetarian, although unfortunately people do feed them things from time to time in some parts of the world, and they will sometimes readily eat cooked meat. I've seen them taking hams and cooked steaks and all kinds of things like that, which they do eat. But generally in the wild, they're going to be going after mostly fruit and herbivorous items. The baboons, however, are very different. The baboons will scavenge heavily, and they will even hunt for themselves. And so at this time of the year, the baboons kind of are quite sly and wily. They go and they'll try and spend time around the impalas and help with looking out for predators. But as soon as the lambing season comes, then you'll find the baboons become a predator of those impalas, and they'll actually try to start going after those lambs and hunt them and try and bring them down. So baboons definitely will scavenge and definitely will hunt, but these vervet monkeys, no, not so much. They're more into insects and fruits and those kind of things. Quickly catch up before you get lost. All the rest have gone now. There we go. Look at how long the tail is. So that tail is going to be vitally important with being able to balance and to, when climbing, to make sure that they don't fall as they go. Big long tails mean that they'll definitely be able to counterweight things. Christine, you're wondering if they can hang from the tree with their tail. Well, no, Christine, they can't hang from the tree with their tail, and I've never seen them do it. But what you will find when they're sometimes sitting in a tree is that they'll loop their tail around, and it'll just add as an extra stability. So the hands are still there, but the tail just helps with trying to stay a little bit more stable and trying to sort of keep themselves from falling. So their tail is used a lot, but it's more just to counteract the body weight and help in a balancing situation. So when they climb, you'll find the tail will move and counteract the weight of the body itself. But that was very cool. That was a very, very cool sighting indeed. I'm quite happy about that. Haven't seen vervet monkeys like that in a very long time, and certainly haven't seen them drinking in probably, I would say, 3-4 years out in the open and in the wilds. So that was very cool. Craig, did you enjoy that? Yeah, it was okay. Which for Craig is as well as good as it gets. Now, I'm going to try and still make my way down towards Twin Dams because, well, I've just gotten completely sidetracked with all things monkey. And so while we do that, let's go back to Taylor and see whether or not she's been able to relocate on those spots.
No, we're going to leave that leopard now. We were in there and she was running for her life. I don't know what leopard it is. I didn't really get a good view. But where we are now, there's lots of food for the lions or for a leopard. There's a family of warthogs here, and there's also a huge waterbuck. And I heard a squirrel alarming down in the drainage line. We're on Mvubu Road now. There's Franklins. Hear them? They're alarming. So I think the lions are coming up this way. We've just got to try and spot them through the long grass now. I've also got some very interesting information to share with you, and I'm sure you'll be appreciative of this. Remember that hyena that unfortunately passed along? It's just west of Tamboti Dam in Buffelshoek. Mvula has been found there, and he is feeding on the hyena carcass. He must be hungry. So that's also happening. Let's continue. Let's catch up with these birds that are alarming and figure out who's making them nervous. Just realign. Everything was shuffled as we were doing off-roading. So that's also happening. One of the Buffelshoek landowners just mentioned it to me on the radio now. There's obviously so much going on out here in the bush today. It's very exciting. Unusual because it's such hot weather too. But I'm very confused. I can hear the Franklins alarming and coming closer to them now. Fiona, you've said how often are fences checked? Sorry, I'm just trying to see into this bush where I had those Franklins alarming. And you said because there were a couple of 4 lions that escaped around Nelspruit a couple of months ago. That's for certain. I can tell you one thing though, is that if the lions and not crocodiles and elephants and things like that wanted to, they could walk straight out of the Paul Kruger gate. Because as soon as you go over the bridge to the Paul Kruger, if they want, they can go underneath it and walk down on the road. So it's the same thing with the boom gates. The boom gates don't have these massive electric Jurassic Park gates that open. It's literally a boom. So if they're not occupied at 12 o'clock at night, which I don't think the boom gates would be, they get locked up so no cars can go through. But leopards and lions can come out if they want to. So it's really not stopping them. Warthogs, hyenas, jackals, they dig. They'll dig underneath the fences often. So they're constantly being patrolled the fence lines to check for things like that. But remember, the animals have got over 4.5 million hectares, so 8.5 million acres of land to roam around on. It's difficult to keep checking those. That is an impala. Oh, I got excited. I thought it was a lion. Let's go back down here quickly. We're gonna have to just drive up and down the entire time now until we find them again. And I have to concentrate, I have to stare into the bushes, because if I just look on the road or if I keep looking back to camera, I'm going to miss these cats. So I promise I'm not being rude. I'm just searching as hard as I can to try and pick up on these lions again for you, or for all of you. Right. Suppose we can quickly go around again. They should be popping out now, and I hope they go in the direction that those where the waterbuck and warthogs are, because then they'll find themselves something to eat. Also need to check the ground to see for tracks if they have crossed over the top of mine. That would be a helping hand too. What is that? Stump. Termite mound. Oh, that's very lion-like. It looked like a lion. There was a termite mound on top of sort of raised, I don't actually know what it was. Anyways, and it looked exactly like a lion. I got excited for a moment. We're still going to keep searching for them because the hunting conditions are now starting to really improve with this wind. So who knows what we're going to see, but I'm going to send you back across to Tristan now, and he was on his way towards Twin Dams.
Well, I was indeed on my way there, but I've already come and gone, and the elephant tracks that we're looking for have crossed off towards Little Gowrie. But I want to go and check towards Chitwa Dam because, well, the drainage line behind Chitwa Dam might be a perfect place for elephants on a warm, windy afternoon like this. So I just want to go and have a little look there, because you always just double check in the Mulawati when coming through in case Little Hosanna is around this area. But I would imagine Taylor's tracking is going to be quite tough with this wind. The lions will definitely be well aware of what's going on, and that's probably why they're moving, is that they're going to be hunting into the wind. In particular, it seems like they're moving in a sort of northeasterly direction, which is the direction of the wind. The wind seems to be kind of shifting from our eastern side at the moment, so that's where it's coming from. And in terms of lion logs, well, Taylor, there is such a thing because, well, on leave I managed to see, or went and did some work with darting of lions to try and check for TB, and the lions ended up going up into the tree. So lion logs is a real thing, really. There was a lioness that was unfortunately fell asleep after the drugs took in and managed to then fall asleep in the tree itself, and we had to try and climb up and now get 150 kilogram lioness or 300 pound lioness out of a leadwood tree that was probably about the size of this big knobthorn to our left here. So this lioness ended up going into this tree about that size, about midway up, and so myself and another guy had to climb up there and try and then lower a sleeping lioness who was not so sleepy by the time we tried to get her out. She was starting to wake up and growl and carry on, and so we had to top her up a little bit with some extra sleeping medication just to make sure that we both didn't get eaten while up there. But I can tell you it's quite something when you're sitting in a tree and a lioness starts growling at you in your ear and her legs start kicking at your face. It's not an ideal situation at all, so it's definitely something that I will try and avoid in the future. I've stopped because there's some traffic that is about to come past me now. They've just stopped and sort of watching where I am, but they were slowly coming this way. Do you see how graceful the one in the back is? Look at how she jumps, effortless. You would do very well in a show jumping competition, Miss Kudu. Now don't go that way. You were supposed to go the other way. And they're going to obviously try and cross behind us by the looks of it. And you can see a young male in front there, tiny horn, so he's probably about a year old, born last summer, I would imagine. Well, in fact, actually probably a little bit later than that, maybe just before spring was when he was born, because those horns haven't even turned for the first time, so about a year is what I would imagine. He's still going to get much larger. That's why he's still with the females. As they get a little bit older, once they reach about 3.5, they tend to leave the females and go and do their own thing. There we go, just crossing behind us. Very nice. Lots of kudu about at the moment, and I'm surprised with all this wind. I would have imagined that there would have been far less kudu and nyala sightings. They would have been trying to head into thickets, and maybe they've been caught out a little bit because it wasn't this windy earlier today. It's kind of kicked up this afternoon, and maybe they were out feeding in more sort of higher areas, and now they're starting to shift down towards the drainage sections. Just going to say hello quickly to Ralph from Cheetah Plains. He's coming past. Hello Ralph, how are you doing? Good. Very well, thank you. So isn't Love still there?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Cool. So, just asking if Ralph had seen any signs of these elephants, and he said looks like they're just going a little bit further south towards Chitwa. So that's excellent news for us. Hopefully they will be somewhere there. Difficult to hear because of all the wind, and particularly where we're driving now, you can hear how gusty it is. The radio is breaking up terribly, and I can't actually hear the guys very well. So I thought I heard somebody say something about a male elephant in the last few minutes, somewhere around Chitwa Dam. So we're just going to go and try and scope it out and see if we can't find anything. I think with this wind, though, I don't know if elephants are going to be out for too long. I'm sure they're going to try and head back into thicker areas and into denser areas to try and sort of get out of the way. But back to the lioness story. All's well that ended well. We eventually did get her out the tree. We had to tie ropes to her midriff and her front legs and then lower her out of the tree. And once she was down, we then managed to do all the things that we could do. And well, the good news is that the 3 lionesses that we looked at, none of them had TB. They were all fine, and so they then got woken up and are back and doing all their things no problem. So all good news in the end of the day, because TB is always one of those things that is a bit of a worry, particularly in the lionesses. There we go. So I did hear right. There is a big male elephant right in front of us. I'm just going to slowly roll forwards because, well, there's some guests that are with him at the moment, so we're just going to get a little bit forward. There we go. Hello, boy. And this makes a marked change from last cycle already. So last cycle I really struggled with the elephants. I had very few Ellie's sightings in my time and really struggled to find them. But first afternoon back, and well, a big bull elephant, and I can tell you there's not very many ways to have a better welcome back than to spend time in one of the gentle giants, in the company of one of the gentle giants of the Kruger. And he's still a smallish bull. He's not a particularly young bull. If you look at his right ear, you can see that big notch out of the ear, and so that's a tear that's just grown and healed and gotten bigger as he's gotten older. And so he's not a young bull. Often if you look on the edges of their ears, it will give you an indication of their sort of age. If you see lots of notches and lots of cuts out of them, then you know that these bulls have been around for a little bit longer, because as they go and as they do this, where they shove their ears into trees, so they get little cuts and breaks, and that ends up then sort of getting more tattered. And look at how he's using his feet. Isn't this amazing? So what he knows is that underneath there is a whole bunch of vegetation that he wants to get to, and where other animals couldn't, and he's got enough power to have lifted that massive branch and push it out the way, and now he can feed off the nutritious grasses that were growing underneath there. And he's just going to slap off all the soil, make sure that that doesn't ruin his teeth. And funny enough, if you look at the grass that he's picking up, it's actually a lot greener than the grass around it. So you see there's quite a bit of green inside there. Now, hopefully when he puts it in his mouth we'll be able to see. Well, he's just shoving it in too quickly, but there's a lot of greenery within it, and so he's probably finding a lot of nutrients within that section that he wouldn't have been able to find had that tree not been over it, because things like impalas and zebras and wildebeest and all the other grazing animals would have gotten in there first and would have been able to eat that. And so he's found himself a perfect nutrient-rich source. Alicia, you say we've made your day by finding an elephant. Well, Alicia, my day is made too. Always love spending time with these big guys, and hopefully he's going to be a super gentleman and stick around for the afternoon and not go disappear into the thickets with this wind. So my day has been made as well, and I'm glad that he's made your day too. Now, what's also just arrived, I don't know if you can see it, at the bottom right of the frame, there's 2 starlings that, as soon as that tree got pushed, the 2 of them then landed. And I think they know that there's insects that have been disturbed. We often know when trees sit over grass, they form a perfect place for things like termites to move around. You'll even find ants sometimes in there, and that would have been exposed now. So these 2 Birchall starlings can now get in and try and see if they can't find the food that has been exposed by this elephant. So it just shows you how quick these birds are at finding an elephant and then swooping in to take advantage of the food source that has been exposed. Very clever indeed. But do you hear how much that wind is blowing? It's going to make it quite tough, especially if we get a bit of a drop in temperature overnight. Tomorrow morning will be a tough morning if it stays windy like this. And I wonder, with a hot day like we've had today, if we're not getting the edge of a cold front that's starting to arrive. This is often what happens when you get hot weather. Then a wind like this, it's generally what's just in front of the cold front, and then the temperature drops quite quickly after that. So it's going to be interesting to see how tomorrow is. And I don't think our Ellies will be around too much tomorrow morning if it is still very windy. So we'll have to lap up and enjoy our time with him this afternoon. But I always love watching them when they feed at this time of the year. It's so interesting. So, John, you're wondering why the elephants have such a poor digestive system? Well, John, there's no sort of specific answer as to why they have it, but it's probably to do with the fact of their size. Being such a large animal like this, if they had to have a very efficient digestive system, they would just eat far too much, and they'd probably eat the area around them barren, and they wouldn't then be able to survive. Having this sort of digestive system that it doesn't really work as well means that they actually, I don't even know why I said that, because that's completely wrong. I don't know why I've said that, but it's probably to do with the fact that just their size is really it. And sorry, there's somebody in my ear also talking about this elephant, and so that's just putting me off a little bit. But like I said, I don't actually know the real reason to do it. If they had a more efficient digestive system, you would find that they'd have a situation where they wouldn't actually have to eat as much, and so it would probably work a lot better. But for some reason they do, and it's probably to do with their size, that they're able to then get enough just to feed and to grow and to get big. If they had a more efficient one, you'd find that they'd probably have to feed off plant vegetation that is a lot more nutrient rich, like what we see with giraffe and other sort of browsing animals and kudu and those kind of things. They have to target certain trees that are high in nutrients to sustain themselves, whereas elephants, being big animals, they need to just feed all the time, and they can feed off pretty much anything. So they can find nutrients in dry grass, they can find nutrients in wood, in roots, whereas, you know, if they were something like a giraffe, they would have to try and find areas where there's high densities of vegetation that is highly nutritious. With this sort of bad digestive system means that they can find food pretty much anywhere and survive in ranging ecosystems, and being big animals means that they then don't have to worry about finding those nutritious plants within the system. There we go, I finally got it out. I don't know where I was going with that, or why I was even saying what I was saying to start off with. This is what happens when you've been on leave for a little bit. Your brain stays on leave too. So there we go. And I was saying just now, the reason why I love watching them feed at this time of the year is just the way that they do it. Now that it's getting into winter, they're going to shift from eating the tops of the grass to the bottoms of the grass, and you're going to get a situation where they're going to eat mostly roots and those kind of systems. And so when they feed, they'll then take that grass, like we saw just now, and hit it up against the chest. And that sort of hitting up against the chest means that they are getting rid of any soil that could potentially be on that grass, and that means that they're going to be less destructive on their teeth. So they're going to be able to keep their teeth for a longer period of time, and therefore stay alive for a longer period of time. Isn't this amazing? Look at this prominent path that we're on here. So this path here, you can see there's even elephant dung in front of us, would be used a lot by elephants, but I would imagine was probably created more by hippos than anything else. But you can see how well defined that is, and that's because it's going down towards Chitwa Dam, so the hippos move along this, and then that drives the elephants to utilize it as well. And it's now become almost like a road for all of the animals, and you'll find now the cats will use it, impalas, kudu, varying other species as well. I'm just going to try and see if I can't just sneak up alongside him. There we go. You are very relaxed. So, Lisa, you're saying that it's funny how some of the trees are green and some of them are not. Well, Lisa, it depends on the type of root system that they've got that generally dictates whether their leaves stay green through the winter or not. So you'll find this big, tall green tree to the right-hand side of this elephant. So a little bit further back, there we go. That big guy there is going to have a very, very deep taproot that's going to go way down, and is going to be able to access water even through the drier times of the year, and therefore stay green like that. Whereas a lot of these other trees out here do not have that ability, and so their roots don't go nearly as deep, and therefore as it dries out, the top layer of soil dries, and so the leaves can't get the water that they need, and then they drop off, and the tree then survives with no leaves until the summer months, and then water table tops up again. So that's pretty much the reason why some of them are without and some are still bright green. You'll find though that a lot of the trees are only just starting to lose their leaves, whereas the grass has already turned quite a while ago. The grass has gone a brown coloration and has really lost its nutrients, whereas the leaves themselves, there's still some trees that have got leaves, and this is quite an interesting example of a tree, because you can see this terminalia, or the silver cluster leaf that we have here, is actually still alive. Even though it's been pushed over completely, it's been pushed over and the tree is now starting to grow. You see how it's got a very unique shape. The crown is on the left hand side, but as it's now starting to go up to try and get to the sun, so the tree is taking on a slightly different shape. So there we go, you can see how the leaves are actually reaching to find sunshine up there. So the tree itself is still alive, it's just lying on its side from an elephant, but it is still growing and still very much getting nutrients. But those leaves will start to drop off now as we approach the winter months. Now Ellie is slowly moving down towards Chitwa Dam, so I wonder if we're not going to get him going to have a drink. It would be really nice if he does. There's also a beautiful herd of Impala, and this is my favorite time of day to head towards Chitwa Dam. We get a situation where we get beautiful golden light coming down, and it is absolutely perfect to sit and spend time with these animals. Now our Ellie is just behind the termite mound, but in front we've got the beautiful Impala herd that I was talking about, and in amongst them is my favorite antelope, the Nyala, and particularly the male Nyala. You can see is slightly larger than the Impalas, and has also got a very different coloured coat. So he's got that long shaggy fur on his stomach and his back, and is brown in coloration rather than that sort of rusty colour that you see on the Impalas. Also notice he's got white lines and stripes and dots, whereas the Impalas have got those horizontal markings and sort of changes in colour going that way. But do you notice his legs are the same color as the Impala's legs? So he's got those same sort of colored light brown legs, and the reason for that is because when these Nyala are generally in thicker areas, they don't spend that much time in open sections like this, so it's really nice to see him. But when they're in thicker areas, their legs still are in the grass, and if they had dark brown legs like the rest of the body, those legs are going to stand out very easy, and you'll find that predators will find them quite quickly. So those legs actually blend in with the grass, and then the darker top layer to blend in with the sort of shadows of the treed area. Now Craig, I think your shot is about to get ruined by a rather large pachyderm that is coming past. Interesting how he's just changed direction completely. He was walking sort of southwards, and I think he's realized it's just far too windy out on this open, and is now going towards the dense, thicker areas to our west. There we go. He is very gentle and is in no way bothered by us. It's quite interesting because at this sort of time when you get wind like this, often elephants can become a little bit on the grumpy side. They can't hear as well, they can't see as well. There's dust kicking up into their eyes, and this really just makes them a little bit more unsettled. But this guy has been absolute pleasure. He's in no way been grumpy with us, and is just ambling slowly down the road now. I wonder if he's not picking up the scent of other elephants. There's lots of evidence of other elephants being here. Trees that have been pushed down. You can see at the base of his feet there. There's trees down, and he keeps dragging his trunk on the ground. See, look at that. You see how he's sniffing? So I think he's working out that there's maybe other elephants that have been here, and now he's just trying to see where they are. Look, see how the trunk is working? Going up into the wind itself, trying to work out where exactly this herd has gone. Very, very interesting. That's cool to see. So it just shows you how incredible their sense of smell is, to be able to smell elephants that have been here feeding previously and be able to know which direction they've gone is quite something. And unfortunately he's going the wrong way because Chitwa Dam is to our left. So albeit, like I was just about to say, and you maybe have just read my mind and well had a similar thought to what I did, is You wanted to know if he's going to go down and drink water. Well, I thought the same thing, but unfortunately I think it's so windy that he's kind of was on his way down and he thought, no, well, I'm not going to walk out in this horrible gusting wind, and that he might just take this treed area and use that and then eventually pop out at the dam a little bit later. I think also there's been tracks of other elephants. If we look on the road here in front of me, you can see there's other elephant tracks all over the place here, and so maybe he's picked up the of females, and that's then going to mean that he's going to completely forget about going for water and rather go and try and find some girls to sort of fight off gremlins in this area, because, well, at Chitwa Dam we know that they're in full tilt, and so while I try to fight them off and find a better place to park, let's go back to Taylor and see how she's doing with her leopard search.
We've had to call in aerial help now because we're not searching for leopards, we're searching for lions. We are leaving the leopard. She's too skittish. I don't know who she is, and I really don't want to chase after her and push her and make her even more scared of the cars, so we're still looking for the lions. So I asked Connor if he could maybe come out with a drone and see if he can find them from the air, because if they are in this huge drainage system, we're not going to find them in the car, unfortunately. So we're going to try and drive up and go back towards Mvubu Road a little bit, and if not, then I'm going to go up Central and go up Gary Cut Line and see if they haven't maybe just been crossing through the blocks and we've just missed them. I also went to check the hyena den, but there are no adults there, and the teeny little cub was just sitting out sunning itself, but we couldn't stay there, unfortunately, because there wasn't even the older cub in sight. See, they love it in here. This is their favorite spot. Used to be their favorite spot, but there isn't much. There isn't anything in this drainage line that we can see just yet. But Connor should be able to have a better view. My only concern is that it is quite windy, but we'll see what Master Teagues has to say. Okay, we're gonna keep your fingers crossed. Theoretically, if we just go round and round and round on the same roads, we're either A, going to see their tracks where they've crossed, or B, we're going to find the animals. That's our plan at the moment. Everything else seems to be a bit quiet. Mvula has stopped feeding on the carcass, the hyena carcass, in Bavelshoek. He's gone further north. He's now resting up on a termite mound, so we can't see him either. It's probably about 200 or 300 meters from the boundary, but if he comes south, we'll see what we decide to do a little bit later. Just trying to figure out. You see, now I can't even hear anything while I'm driving, which bothers me because it is so windy. And I think even when I stop, I'm going to struggle to hear things. Just make sure. And I know if you can, I think if you can, whoever's zoomy today, it would be nice if you could keep an eye out on the dam cam too, because they could cross and go that way. So just keep panning and make sure that nothing comes sneaking around that way. I believe there's some Impala just at the dam. Well, if they start alarming, you'll have to let me know. Wonderful. So thank you for all your hard work and your help with trying to spot the lions on that side too. It's definitely much appreciated. I'm just gonna go. It's a stick. I know it's a stick, but I'm just triple checking. Stick. No, now we stalled. Just don't know where they could be. Hopefully they're stalking these warthogs or this waterbuck that we saw a moment ago. Well, not actually a moment ago. It feels like it was quite a while ago now. It's so hard to see through here. Now, Zedric, you're wondering how often should lions feed in order to be healthy? Well, they're still healthy now. They're just hungry. They're still in fairly good condition, though. And they're used to going hungry like this. It's not an uncommon thing to see with the big cats. But I think ideally, if a lion could have a meal every 2 to 3 days, maybe even every 3 to 4 days, they'd be very happy with that. Something big that they could feed on it for, 48 hours. I thought I'd heard a bird alarming, but it wasn't. That's why I went quiet all of a sudden. See, there's no tracks going over the road, and we'd see them clearly. if they had crossed, because we've driven up and down this road 10 times already